shit. Everybody's pocket split for that legend Kevin Smith.
Welcome to Smodcast. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, you know what today is, kids? Today is February 5th, 2013. What does that mean to you and me? Maybe nothing. Maybe something. Maybe we take a little trip back in time. 6 years ago, when a younger, fatter, not hockey jersey wearing Kev Smith sits down at a poker table in the old The View Askew offices over there on Sycamore, right off La Brea, with his longtime producer pal, Scott Mutterin' Mosier. And we record on an old M-Tech, or a brand new M-Tech rather, which would be old now, the very first episode of Smodcast, or we released it this day. I forget. I think actually maybe we published it this day. Anyway, in any event, it's today is actually the 6 year anniversary of either the recording of or the releasing of. I think it's the releasing of the very first Smodcast, which birthed later on Tell 'em Steve Dave and birthed a great interest and passion for me in fucking hearing the sound of my own voice on a regular basis. We should be celebrating, of course, together, me and Scott Mosier. But we didn't get together before he went to Dallas. Scott's working on that cartoon movie a lot and whatnot, so he's back and forth. So our birthday episode is going to be next week, man. So when you tune in to Smodcast next week, you're going to hear celebration. We're going to selly, bitch. We're going to slide down the ice, man, like Nail Yakupov, man. It's going to be fantastic. There's a little Edmonton Oilers shout out. Go Oilers. What we're going to do instead this week is I'm going to let you sample something new. I've been talking about Why Bry, a new podcast that I want to take out on the road with my good friend Bryan Johnson. You all know him from Tell 'em Steve Dave here on the Smodcast Network, or you know him from Comic Book Man. He's the beard guy. Or you know him from Space Monkeys. They just had a sold-out show, him and Brian Quinn and Sal Volcano out here in Los Angeles at the Lovitz on Saturday night. You know Bry. He's in fucking Randall, man. Without Bryan Johnson, there is no Randall. So me and Bry wanted to do a show together, like go out on the road. You know, can't have him come do Smodcast. That's Scott's show. Can't have him on Babylon. That's Ralph's show. I can't have him on Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. I was just going to repeat a joke that you'll hear in a couple minutes, so I'll let it lie right there. But he deserves his own show, and we didn't really have one. I couldn't go out with them in Tesdy because Walter doesn't really like to fly or anything like that. And also, that's their show, him and Walter and Brian Quinn. So we were trying to figure out something, and we said, oh, why don't we just do this? We got a little show at YouTube that we've been doing at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/csmod, SEESMOD. Walt Flanagan Draws is one of the shows. Sloppy Seconds with Kevin Smith is another one. Comic Head, of course, is still there. But one of the new shows that we started running about 4 or 5 weeks ago is called Why Bry? And it's Why Bry? And it's me listening to Bryan tell me heinous stories that blow my hair back and get me to the point of going, Why Bry? It's a fun little show. You can check it out. We've enjoyed doing it. We shot a bunch of them with Josh Gray, Bumpin' Fresh Industries, in the stash. The next few will be cutting from the live performance that we just did on Monday night, last night, and that you're going to listen to here. That's right, man. This episode of Smodcast, man, I'm going to debut the Why Bry podcast. We took the little web show or a little YouTube show and put us our fat old asses on a stage and had us talking to each other. So maybe you can see it when we put clips up online, but you could probably hear it too if you listen to me during this show. You can hear me smiling from ear to ear. I love Bryan Johnson, man. I think he's a fucking genius and one of the truest, most original people I ever met in my life. So, sitting up there and chit-chatting with them, in front of we had a nice crowd, man. It was a late show, or it was a show on a Monday, and we added kind of late, 8 o'clock on a Monday. Lovitz is normally closed. We asked them to open up for us. And, we wound up getting like 87 people. It was pretty good. We were hoping for 50 because of being a Monday night. Wound up being 87, I think it was. So nice crowd, good enough to provide laughs and good enough to test out the waters on what we're hoping will be a regular thing. Me and Bri being able to go out on the road and do Why Bri Live. As we were talking about it last night after the show, I drove him back to the airport. He's staying out there, and he got on a flight this morning to head back to good old New Jersey so he can record the next Tell 'em Steve, Dave, and whatnot. But as we were driving out to the airport, I said, isn't it amazing, dude? Like, we're still talking about the same shit we've been talking about for 25 years. And Brian's like, yeah, but now we get paid to do it. It's even funner. We love it. We love sitting there reminiscing. There are very few things in life that I enjoy more than making Bryan Johnson laugh, except perhaps laughing because Bryan Johnson made me. So you'll hear it in the podcast. A lot of affection there. Shecky, I'm talking about my man love for Bryan Johnson. You fucking dogs don't understand. So there it is, man. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Just happened last night at the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater. Me and Bryan Johnson sitting down for the debut of Why Bri. Here you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Smith and Bryan Johnson. Why Bri Live?
All right, man. Thanks for coming out. Welcome to Why Bri. I'm Kevin Smith.
Bryan Johnson.
Hey, everybody. This is kind of cool, man. We got a nice little small crowd and stuff, enough to just fill the bottom floor of the Lovitz. And it calls to mind the Smodcast crowds that we started building the live shows in front of. Like when we started Hollywood Babylon, it was at this little 46-seat theater I had on Santa Monica Boulevard. We did a Hollywood Babylon there. We did Jay and Silent Bob Get Old there. And I always wanted to do something with you there, but you lived on the other side of the country. So tonight kind of takes me back to that like a year and a half ago, where I was like, man, if Bryan was here, we could do fucking shows all the time. So I don't know. This is real special for me. Thanks everybody for coming out. It's a very experimental show at this point. We're still trying to figure out if we got a show. We want to see if we can go out on the road and do something together. I can't take Bryan into Smodcast without being like, fuck off, Mojer. And I can't, take him on to Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. There's already one train wreck on that show. So,
so they're the litmus test. If they can stomach me, then there's a chance.
I think so. I think it's kind of like that. So this is more about like, let's figure out like, do we have a beginning, middle, end? How does it work and stuff? So bear with us. It's not like a well-oiled machine.
You paid fucking $10. I mean, what do you want?
That's the simple and succinct way of putting it, cutting right through the chuffa, as Bruce Willis would say. Okay, man, but that's kind of what we're doing. We'll feel ourselves around. We'll do this for about an hour and stuff, and if it gets bored, you can be like, this fucking blows, move on, and shit, and we will. It's that kind of night. It's cool. We're rolling, we're shooting. This is going to be Smodcast this week, so you can all hear it in about 2 hours when we're done and stuff.
If we go long enough, they'll actually be listening to it as we're up here.
Let me ask you a question, man. You just were here the other night for your Lovitz debut for Space Monkeys, correct?
Yeah, I was.
Pull this off.
What's up? Is this the way we do it?
Yeah, work it.
This is the way we do it?
Get right into it, man. Fist that shit. You're in Los Angeles. Put a dick in your face.
I know.
How was
this
that?
This would never fly in Jersey.
This picture.
It was good. Was there anybody here tonight that was here? Oh, okay.
And that was you and Brian Quinn, who you're on Tell 'em Steve Dave with, and then Brian Quinn and Sal Volcano are on Impractical Jokers.
Yeah.
So it's kind of two, the boy from the bearded boy from Comic Book Men, and the two fucking rapscallions from Impractical Jokers
yeah.
Going out and speaking on the stage. It was cool. The place was fucking sold out. It was packed. You guys sold out like almost within a week of going on sale, if not only 4 days or something. How was it? How was the whole thing? I was here for the intro. How was the whole show?
Well, those are two different questions. How was it and how was the whole thing? Because if you were here, you know that as, Quinn came out with a beer. And then the next order is 4 Jamesons. Give me 2 more beers. And then he has his mic and he's running around over there and he's eating chips off of somebody's plate and he's yelling to girls up there. So it was okay. Here's like the first minute, and then it peaked, and then like 2 hours later, people were like, "What the fuck, man?"
Space monkeys, indeed.
Yeah, really.
What was? But what do you do in a moment like that? Do you steer the ship, or do you just like, I'm going down in flames with the rest of them?
It's Quinn, and Quinn's drunk. I mean, if you were here, right? I mean, there's no talking to the guy. And even if I was trying to interject, he couldn't hear me. He's so wrapped up in whatever he's doing. So I tweeted for a little bit. I tweeted with people actually that were in the theater.
What did you tweet?
Tweeted for a water.
Yeah, well, first I tweeted for a water because
in the middle of the show. What a pro!
I couldn't get the waiter's attention, or he didn't want to come up because Quinn is, he has that like New York weird aggression where it's like there's a difference between like him being like, I love this guy, and like one drink later is, your life is threatened. Or
so if a waiter's bringing water up here, be like, get the fuck away from Bryan!
You ain't no space monkey, motherfucker. So then some girl tweeted back, I said, could you please get me a drink? And she was like, can you please end the show? And that was the first clue I got that maybe it was running a little long, but it wasn't really not until 20 minutes after that finally Dom Herrera came up and did a few minutes and saved us, really.
That was really? Before he crashed and burned, he caught you and she threw a net out?
It was literally
Spider Dom?
People were not going to tolerate much more.
Really?
Yeah. If I had better knees, I would have just crawled right off the stage.
What happened after the show? What did you guys do? Did you celebrate?
We celebrated a little. We hung out, took pictures. And then I guess they must have kept drinking, Sal and Quinn. There weren't enough vehicles. Like I had the one car that was going to take me back to the hotel where I wanted to go. Quinn and Sal didn't have a car, and nor should they be driving, even if they did have one. They were bickering and backbiting, and they even got mad at me at one point because I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Well, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing. I'm just talking." "Why?" And they're like, "Because we're waiting on you." I said, "For what?" And then there was no answer. Like, they really didn't have an answer as to what they were waiting for. But then any question they had about how it was going to go down was immediately answered when we were outside. There were only a couple of people left, and the one girl started puking all over the place. It wasn't like, I drank a little bit too much, and like that clear kind of puke. This was like she had just gone to like a fucking Viking feast. Had eaten pig and fucking giant broccoli stems and shit. It was disgusting. And she was just laying there kind of into something. She was young, it's not like, any of us can say we haven't done the same, but it had been so long since I'd been in that position.
Where you were with somebody who was so drunk that they're vomiting?
No, where I was,
You were
even up until just recently, within the past, 8 months or something, just pop a pill and you're like, what's up? I'm going to watch TV. There's no throwing up. There's no there's no molesting people's plates, eating their nachos and shit. That's alcohol. I don't get it, man. I don't get that overconsumption of alcohol. It makes people
rather aggressive.
But it did provide, really, aside from...
speaking of which, don't forget to order big from the bar and tip your waitresses. Keep going.
The only picture that I asked to have taken, or actually that, people asked, get pictures and stuff, but the only one that I actually requested was, I think I actually may have a picture of it up here. Yes, there I am it's very light so you can't see it, but down towards the bottom, that's the puke. And you can see this was a little lady too. I mean, she was like, I don't know, maybe 110 pounds, 5'2". And it just kept coming out. That looks like
everything she'd ever eaten since birth.
Yeah.
Look how happy you are. Thumbs up. I approve.
Well, you know what? I think it was because at that moment I realized she threw up, and so I could now just get in the car and go as well. That puke was my best friend at that point.
The only trophy and souvenir of your trip to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hollywood. What's your dream? I liked when the lights were down. That was so sexy, man. It was a little bit after dark. So, all right, man. So the show, man, the idea of Why Bry, we've been doing it on the YouTube channel on CSmod, our SIT channel, Smodco Internet Television. And the premise on the YouTube show is like Bry is telling me a horrific story and whatnot. And of course, my reaction is, why Bry? So the story that we've been telling for the first few weeks is a story that most people have heard if they've ever listened to any of our other podcasts. Bry tells a story about having sex with his girlfriend's mother while they were still dating, and it's a real charmer and a corker of a tale. So we figure, like, for the podcast for Why Bry, for us to go out and do it, or even if we do it at home and stuff from time to time, it would just be kind of stories about his past things that he's gone into, adventures and whatnot. Like, for those that don't know, what you're looking at when you see us sit up on stage is essentially old school Dante and Randall. Like, I got the Randall character from Bryan, and I was very much the Dante character when I was working at that store. So for me to kind of jump up here and sit down with the guy that inspired everything, the movie that gave me everything, it's cool for me. And I've got an ass load of fucking stories and stuff. And some of them you might have heard before, some of them you haven't. But in the world of
20 years later, he's a multimillionaire, and I'm next to puke like, yeah. Not that much has changed for me. Yeah, there I am.
It's all about taking the right pictures, dude. The Bryan Chronicles, man, that I've been involved with since, I guess I was about 18, have been never-ending fascination for me and whatnot. One of my favorite Bry stories of all time, for those of you unacquainted with Mr. Johnson and his antics, goes back to when we were working at the Quick Stop as seen in Clerks, the convenience store. We actually worked at one point. I worked there first, and then I got Bry a job there. And so one of us would work at the video store, the other be at the convenience store, and we'd switch back and forth. And then during the day, the video store saw no business, so we'd lock that up and go hang out together at the convenience store. You know, when you watch Clerks, that's pretty much a snapshot of what our lives looked like at the time. And I always wanted to get this into the movie, but couldn't because it needed more setup and stuff like that. It feels like it's a story better told than actually done in imagery. We were hanging out at the store very, very bored one day, and Bryan was fantastic at being a boredom killer. He's a guy who could just chase it away, man. He's the Mary Tyler Moore of working at a convenience store. So we're sitting there, and it's not like, you know, we're bored, what should we do? We're just sitting around, and like it was slow. We hadn't figured out how to bring in the VCR and the TV yet and stuff like that. So Bryan goes, I got this idea. I've always wanted to try this. And he goes to the back and he grabs this container of margarine, standard convenience store margarine. You never really saw it in big food stores, only in kind of convenience stores. It was called Happy Boy Margarine. And the picture on the box was an innocuous 9-10-year-old boy who was just like very cheery to be eating fucking
kind of like me in the puke. There you go. Imagine that as margarine.
You're bringing it back. He grabs this margarine, brings it up to the front, man, and he writes on this piece of cardboard. It was almost like the backing board of a comic book. He wrote, "Now in stock," and he did a bomb burst around it, like big, you know, bang, like it's a big deal. Cut it out. And then stuck it on the Happy Boy margarine box. And then he put the margarine box right on top of the register. And so I was like, what's this about? And he goes, let's just see how people react. And so people would come in the store as per usual, man, and you got to see people's fucking reaction to this butter box. Some people were fucking blown away. Like, some people bought the advertisement and you watched them go back and come back with butter and put it up and shit. It was a really interesting character study. Some people just looked at it crossly, like, why would this matter and stuff. Walked out a little bit puzzled, wondering if perhaps the next time they should come back. You know, and the whole time we're just like, ha, 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 ha. Because we're using Quick Stop at this point as our Skinner box, you know, and just fucking around with people to some degree. And then there was one dude who came in. He was a local. We sold him cigarettes constantly. It gets to a point at the store where you just know their brand. You don't even really have to communicate. As you see them pull up through the window or walk through the door, by the time they reach the register, you just have their brand ready to go and the change and stuff like that. This was one of those transactions. Dude comes in all the time, and he was in home improvements or construction or one of those jobs. He was a physical dude, worked with his hands and shit. Me and Johnson, total pussies, soft hands, pressing buttons at the register.
Making bomb bursts all day.
So he comes in, and you know, he's a regular at the video store as well. And would get real tight when he didn't hold his movies and shit. I remember the day that Young Guns 2 came out. 2, yeah. He almost got in a fucking fist fight with Bryan Johnson because we had like 3 copies, and for fucking 2 months this guy was going, when Young Guns 2 comes out, you're going to save it for me, right? I'm number 1 on the list and shit. I mean, this is in a day way before the streaming internet where you can just have Young Guns 2 whenever you want, man. This was when you had to get a fucking VHS for it.
I was his only pipeline at that point.
That was it, man. You were Netflix and whatnot. So he kept saying, save me the tape and whatnot. And there was a list behind the counter, and his name was at the top of it. Young Guns 2 was written all over it. Young Guns 2 comes in the store, Bry's working, he rents all 3 copies out, not to this guy.
In all fairness, though, the last one went out at we closed at 9 o'clock, and the last one went out at 5 minutes to 9.
Right.
So at 2 minutes to 9.
That's when the dude showed up.
He comes to the door.
I'm safe as a baby because I asked for this months ago. And the dude came in almost like he was fucking testing us by coming in with 2 minutes to go. And he was just like, Young Guns 2? And the dude had to be like, it's rented out. Yeah, Young Guns 0. And the dude got real tight with Bryan, and he started yelling at him and shit, because Bryan came next door afterwards. He's like, this guy fucking yelled at me. What did he say?
He cursed me out. It was an intensity like I had never seen before, as if as if I had given away a winning lottery ticket that he asked me to hold for him. He really did pin a lot on it. There was no doubt, because I thought he was going to hit me, and to get that fucking pissy over a VHS tape. You can only imagine in life, how other people deal with them, if he is a roofer, I forgot the fucking roofing nails. Oh, boom, I got you a fucking decaffeinated coffee for a break. Oh, boom. I didn't hold Young Guns 2. Boom.
He didn't throw a punch though, man. He was pissed. I only knew this too before Bryan told me, because he came into a quick stop right after, fucking kicked the door open and was just like, didn't I tell you I wanted Young Guns too? And I was like, I'm over here, dude. That's the other guy. I told him you wanted. I threw him under the bus. I was like, I was going to hold all 3 for you. He should have held it for you. So anyway, that dude is coming into the store when we got the Happy Boy margarine, the butter thing on display right there at the register with the bombers. And he goes and he gets this thing of milk, and I pull his cigarettes for him. I knew what he wanted, his Newports and whatnot. So boom, they go right on the counter. He comes up, puts his fucking milk down and shit. I'm ringing it up. Bryan's sitting behind me reading a fucking newspaper, but not really reading because he's just watching for the reaction. And then sure enough, man, it was like chumming the water for a shark, man. Because this dude just bit so fucking hard. And when his eyes fell on it, man, he just went... He was captivated, but not in a positive way.
No.
Not at all. He's looking at it, and he's like one of those. So angry that he couldn't make an utterance beyond... And since he didn't get a reaction hey, man, what are you huffing about? He threw one on top where he's waiting for us to pick that up.
It was hard to know if it was was he enraged at our pride? Since he probably didn't have a lot of pride in life, that he's like, oh, I'll fucking fuck these guys.
And why would you take shots at us, man? Presumably, it's we could have threw our bosses under the bus and been they made us put the bomb burst on there, man. We're not really. We
don't see the big deal either.
Yeah. He was very huffy, and then finally he goes, who gives a shit? And he's indicating the box. And I was like, excuse me? He goes, why does anyone care? So what? It's butter. And I was just like, oh, but it's new in stock. And I pointed to the bomb burst. And the dude grabbed his fucking change. He's like, fuck this, and walked out.
You also told him that we were the exclusive distributors. That no one else in the county had it.
Bryan had to really fucking till the earth, man. He was just well, we are the exclusive distributors in the area. So that's the kind of shit, I love that kind of shit. And those are the kind of stories we like to talk about on Why Bry, man. Another classic story, one that I absolutely, you know what? You got one. You were teasing on Twitter where you were going I've got a fucking story Kev's never heard.
Yeah, this is something that I never told you. I don't know why really, but there was okay, so you have the bank of stores, and it was Quick Stop RST. There was like a little luncheonette at the end. Mm-hmm. I don't think the tattoo shop was in there by then.
Not when we were there in the beginning.
But across the street, there was, a tenement, right? There's no other word for it.
Yeah, for the longest time, there was this wreck of an old building. It had apartments up top, and it had, like, storefront space downstairs. One of them was a cash register repair shop. I only know that because Mrs. Topper sent me across the street one day, and I was like, this is convenient, because they were right there. But it was almost like it felt like the cash register repair shop from The Shining. Musty, old, spooky, and fucking Lloyd was your friendly cash register repair. Oh yeah, just expect to see little twins and shit. But that building, I remember that. Yeah,
filthy, falling apart, and there was a family. One family lived in it, and we referred to them as the Cruddys. There was a mom Cruddy who was a beast of a woman, very sweet, but huge and greasy, and like eyes shooting different ways and stuff. Mm. And then there were the Cruddy kids. There was a Christina who was older. She was at the time when we first started working there, she was like 17, and then there were a couple of kids that I don't know. They were probably between like
I believe you called them Cruddy 1 and Cruddy 2.
Yeah, they were, they rarely wore shoes, rarely wore shirts. Remember, they would rent from the video store, and one time they brought videos back, not to the video store, but they brought them to Quick Stop, and Kevin opened it up to see what video it was, because by then we had set up a VCR and TV, in the store, so we could watch videos, while we were working. And he opens up the video, and a bunch of cockroaches came scurrying out.
It was really weird, man. And there was one right in the fucking spoke, like the white spoke, a baby one, and we just looked at it, and we were like, how do you kill it? And Bryan was like, easy.
And they were not...
They were one of those families where the kids walked around in diapers and nothing but.
Yeah, and they were too old to be wearing diapers. It was... And I remember one time they were there constantly. Like you say, like the guy who was mad about Young Guns, he was there every single day. There were certain people that were there every single day. And they were not only there every day, but they were there probably 4 or 5 times a day, coming over, getting bubblegum for dinner, like shit like that.
There was a lot of high candy diet going on.
The oldest one, the girl came in one day. Christina. And that was the best part of the job, I thought, was fucking with people, obviously, the butter thing. But it killed so many hours just to, like, fuck with people and tease them. And I remember she came in one time, and we were breaking our balls about something. And another regular came in. I don't remember his name, but he came in, and you said something that made her laugh so hard that a huge green and yellow snot, do you remember this? Flew out of her nose and like went all down her cheek and her neck. And the guy looks at her. He'd walked in like literally like 5 seconds before, looks at her and goes, and walked right back out the door again.
Gagged like a porn star after Space Monkey.
Yeah, exactly. And this was regular. She was not a clean person.
She was. I felt bad for her. She was like a girl pig pen. Like there was always.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is a perfect.
Always good-natured, but like a cloud of dust surrounding her at all times. And if something could happen to make her look worse, like ha ha ha, snot.
Right.
It would happen to her, man.
That was never going to happen to the girl who was super hot who came in all the time.
No, she's like, I know how to clean my nostrils.
Like, hee, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But one time she came in, and I was the only one there, and it was ready to close up. And so, we used to stock the drinks and shit at the end of the night. So I went into the back to stock the drinks, and she was following me around, and came in the back, and I had her working. And one thing led to another, and I ended up making out with her and sucking her titties.
Oh my God, dude!
The female pig pen.
Why, Bryan?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. And I remember the guilt and the shame afterwards that I was like, Because I always tell you everything. I tell you anything that I do that's fucked up.
Oh, I know why you didn't tell me this one.
This one, yeah.
I would have pulled your parents aside, sat them down, and been like, you have to commit him.
Yeah, she was pretty grotesque, and I don't know. Maybe it was the lighting, it was the temperature, like you know how people start hallucinating and shit. Like,
Yeah, when they do that, dude, and in cold temperature and they're hallucinating, they eat each other's feet and whatnot to stay alive. They don't start making out with the girl who's like, ha, snot.
I can see the outline still dried on.
How long does one make out in a situation like that before you're like, what am I doing?
It was a good couple minutes until it broke off naturally. And she came back several... What's that?
What is naturally? How did it break off?
I ran out the door. Well, I think I don't remember exactly how we parted ways, but I'm sure it was like, somebody came in and I didn't want to be seen with her, so I just hit her with a soda bottle. But it was many days after that, she came in and was like, it was a different vibe after that. It was way more like flirtatious and like,
where she's
need
like,
help stocking the soda?
Oh, shit, man. She came for more Bry.
Yeah. She didn't get more Bry.
Second piece of Bry. You never did it again?
No. That was the only time.
Did she ever ask you, like, why don't we make out like we used to?
Yeah, like 20 minutes later. She asked me, no. She never brought it up again, and I never acknowledged it. And then never told you. And there were so many times, like, I could have told you. I mean, I guess it was just leading up to this moment where I could not only tell you, but tell all you good people that, yes, I made out with the female pig pen and sucked her titties.
And if I remember correctly, like I had more titties than she does.
She was very thin. Yeah, she was
very
like beanpole. Well, she had I remember she had like a button-down shirt, so like a couple buttons, and then the bra that was like padded, so you thought even as little as she had, you're like, oh, maybe she got a little more, and then nah.
When the padding came down, 3 cockroaches came down.
Saw a baby cockroach. I was like, oh.
To put this family in like a current context, they were like the Honey Boo Boo family without a Honey Boo Boo.
Yeah,
they were missing their star.
The mom really. If that Honey Boo Boo mom June had dark hair, she would look a lot like her.
She'd been close, man. It was depressing.
It's not like I made out with the mom.
Oh, that would have been a real fucking story, man. Still, the fact that you made out with her is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Although I gotta say,
not really.
Not that shocking. Like I was, as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, I bet you made out with Cruddy Christina. Good for you, I should say. Let's check in on your sobriety, because you were a dude that was fighting the Roxys at one point. And
fighting them was
losing the battle.
Yeah.
How long has it been, and how do you feel, and all that good stuff?
Pretty good. It was, let's see, so I got out of rehab in the beginning of May, and then I got my knee done. I got arthroscopic surgery to try to get my knee fixed at the end of May, and they give you a Percocet, light Percocet, so took that.
And were you like, ah?
Immediately. The second I hadn't even swallowed it yet, tore through the operating room. Wires hanging off my arms, my fucking ass hanging out, man. But it didn't work. It hardly did anything at all. So just this past December, I got a full knee replacement, and it makes you feel kind of dopey because every person, including the doctor, is like, "How old are you?" Because you shouldn't be having a knee replacement, I guess. So young.
Is that right?
I'm considered young. It's the only thing I'm considered young anymore.
When you go get knee work, they're like, hey, you're the youngest we ever did.
Look at this kid.
The people in the waiting room are 80, 60.
Yeah, pretty much. They're looking at hips and knees and shit like that.
What did it feel like, man? Were you awake for any of it?
I woke up during the last 20 minutes. Yeah, it was fucked up. It was. That's a good reaction. I woke up and they have this thing up where it's actually before that, what they do is before you even get put under and stuff, they give you something called a pain ball. And they put it
you're like, what's a pain ball? Like bend over.
Yeah.
What is this for? They're like, because your asshole hurts so much you won't think about your fucking knee.
Yeah, they showed me on video afterwards. Taking pictures of like a paintball, and it's like you see this screen, and it's I keep forgetting that when a lady's pregnant and they do the
like ultrasound or sonogram or something.
I don't like the body language on you. You got like your arms folded. You're like, oh, fucking Christina. They look for like the nerve they got, and there's so many fucking nerves in there. I don't know how the fuck they ever find it, but it's like they have to stick it in, and they're trying to hit it, and they're hitting a bunch of other nerves before they actually get into the one. So your legs jumping, and it fucking hurts. It really hurts, and you're like going like this until they finally get it. And even though it hurts like hell, you're glad that they fucking found it, because there's no more flipping around. Like, in biology and in high school, like you'd like zap the frog legs and make them hop and shit.
Well, you would, and then apparently you paid for it years later.
Like I was that frog for a little bit. And then they put me under, and when I woke up, and they were still working on it, they hadn't like stapled it or anything. And there's like, you're laying on your back, and there's like this shield up in front of you, I guess, so like blood doesn't squirt on you or whatever. And the guy looks at me and he's like,
he saw you were awake?
Yeah, he sees that I'm awake, and I was like, can I look at it? Like I wanted to look at it, and he goes, oh, no. And I asked a couple more times, and I guess it may be too traumatic or something. Like it looks a lot more fucked up than you think it looks. So when you're like out like that, like kind of like in that Twilight, they're like, they don't need him freaking out, It'll be like the last May when he got the Percocet. Like, ah!
Well, you'd be kind of coming out of it and shit. You're like, can I see? And they'd show you'd see like bone, and you'd be like, and start knocking shit over.
Yeah. So they wouldn't let me look at it, and then they put you like into this recovery room.
Maybe they didn't let you look at it because like, nah, you can't see. And if you fucking looked on the other side, there was a dude who was like, does he know?
Like, who knew knee replacement would feel this good?
He's in Twilight. Quick, knock him out.
Yeah, I'm just like one eye looking at him. So then they bring it to the recovery room, and I had a benchmark of pain up until that point.
What was it?
I was in 11th grade in high school, and I broke my ankle playing in a basketball game. And I believe you were recording it at the time. So,
I might have been there for that game.
Yeah, it was a modern day game, and you used to record all the games. And I broke my ankle during the game, but tied it up really tightly so that I could still play.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah. And
it's like out of a movie. You're like Batman, dude.
It was the only game we won that year. So we actually did win. But
were you a factor or no?
Yeah. I was definitely, I was a factor. I'm embarrassed. I was just told I made out with Pigpen. I gotta come away with something heroic. Yeah, definitely a factor. And that night, I went to the hospital. And they gave me, now this is 1985, so I guess they didn't give teenagers anything stronger. Like they gave me Tylenol. And that night I was like, it was unreal how bad it hurt. Cause they didn't like put a cast on it or anything. They gave me like an air cast, it's called, like fucking pump it up full of air and it's not like a true, like, solid cast.
Hard cast.
Right, yeah. So up until the knee replacement, that hurt the most. Like I was crying and shit, that night. But waiting in that recovery room, it was fucking unreal how much it hurt.
After the knee surgery.
After the knee surgery. And they hadn't given me, it was a good couple hours. They hadn't come in and given me any painkillers or anything.
Do you immediately regret the operation where you're like, why the fuck did I do this?
Yes. I was thinking that. I was like, why did I do it, man? Fucking, it's unreal how bad it hurts. And how long is this going to last? Meanwhile, it's an hour after they just tore my knee open and put it back with like 23 staples. But then they come in and they gave me some painkillers, and in like a half hour, it went away. Now, when you go up to the room, they gave me, and I don't know who's familiar with dosages and shit, but they gave me 30 milligrams of OxyContin, another 20 milligrams of oxycodone, which is like a quick acting, those are the Roxys basically, and then intravenous Dilaudid. Right? Now I'm thinking,
I'm gonna be fucked up.
Yes, yeah, and I'm allowed. I'm allowed to do this. Like, I'm not being bad. Like, they're giving it to me. And I don't know if it was because I had set such a high threshold over the years that I was taking it, or that it was just going to kill the pain. Nothing.
There was no edge.
No
to it.
head high at all. None. And I was like,
but did it take away the pain in the knee, or did you still feel the knee?
It took away most of the pain. Not all of it, but a pretty decent amount. But through that whole time, nothing.
Did you? And how long did you?
I even brought my recorder for Tell 'em Steve Dave. I brought my recorder so that I could, if I was like really fucked up, I was going to do a solo podcast and like see how it came out. But I was so normal that I was like, this would just be boring, you know?
How long was the recovery period? And did you have to like put it on machines and somebody work you out and shit?
You have this thing. It's called what the fuck was it called? It's a machine that like moves your leg, and it was fucked up. You had to do it 6 hours a day. For like 2 weeks. It just, 3 2-hour sessions of fucking move your leg and stuff. And this guy would come in and stretch your leg every couple days. But I was walking within less than 2 weeks.
And walking or like fucking walking like Christian Bale Batman. Like
like that. I still basically walk like that because it's
you got the beard like
it's
him
still
too.
Swollen up, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You showed me.
I hope somebody fucks up the lights here. I'll scream at him like Christian Bale.
When you showed me, it did look pretty fucking nasty. I mean, it just, they did a nice job. It's not like it looks messy, but it looks like it fucking hurt, man.
Yeah.
More than life itself. See, that's the two things would keep me away from it, as bad as my knees were. Number one, that moment after the operation where you're like, oh my God, I'm in hell.
Is it always going to be like this?
Yeah, but even worse than that, I think the thing that would keep me away, and you're not afraid of this, when they put you under, you're not afraid that they're just going to be like, he's asleep, let's look at his dick.
I mean, I'm sure they saw it.
Especially because now you're on TV where they're like, this is that motherfucker from Comic Book Men. Let's look at his dick. And they're all just like taking thumbs up pictures and shit. Yeah. Like, put it in your mouth.
I mean, there's no doubt.
That's the only
There's
thing
no doubt they saw it, because no matter what you're getting done, they're like, take off all your clothes. I mean, this is just my experience. Is that the way it happens for everybody else?
You're like, and also they tell me to roll over and they put things in my ass. Does this happen to everybody else? That would keep me. I know I'm probably going to die from some sort of like easily cured hospital ailment, like one in and out surgery or like a fucking day procedure, because I'm just so fucking terrified. They'll be like, look at Silent Bob's dick. And that'll fucking go viral and shit. No wonder he's silent.
They also I was taking a bunch of different medicines. It was like blood thinners and high blood pressure and this and that. And they constantly came in to do vitals and shit, you know. You could never get a good night's sleep because every 2 hours they would come in. And so one night they come in and she takes my vitals and she leaves, and I go to like move the blanket, and I was like, why is this blanket wet? And then I was like, why is the sheet wet? I was like, oh fuck, why are my underwear wet? And I guess like the medication I took, like I was sleeping so heavily, and but it was only within the first couple of days. So the what's it called when they put in your back spine? Again, girls get that.
Epidural.
Epidural. Don't cross your arms, lady. The epidural, yeah, like you don't have any feeling below your waist for a little while. So I had pissed the bed and pissed myself, and now this is like 2 days into it, so it still like hurts like hell. I can hardly walk.
And you've been pissing for 2 days?
Yeah, pissing for 2 straight days without changing. They're like, hey, Cruddy Johnson needs to get changed.
They're like, he's the pig pen of boys.
No. It was that night. Like I had pissed the bed that night, and so the nurse had just left. There were 2 nurses, and one had a real attitude, and I knew she would have been like, told other, but hey, remember that comic book guy with the little dick? He also pisses his pants. So I didn't want to tell her, and the other lady, like, was nice, and I had like she was very friendly. It's still, I know, you're 45, it's hard to be like, I piss my pants. Even though I'm sure they're like, well, I don't know, that's natural.
That happens in the hospital all the time. I'm sure it's like fairly common.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, but I couldn't, like, I mean, I have almost no pride whatsoever, but just that little bit, I was like, I don't want to tell them I piss my pants. So Did
you just start hanging your sheets outside the window?
They made me wash them in front of the other patients as a punishment. So I took the sheet, like I took the sheets off, I'm and I'm connected to the pain ball. So the pain ball's stuck in my leg. I have the IV shit in my arm. So I have all these wires. So to negotiate getting these sheets off, getting my underwear off, and then the gown, which because I'm only wearing the gown, it was difficult. And they had brought in a gown for me, like I could change it. So they brought in a gown earlier. So when I go to get that gown, like I had to get off the bed and like walk a couple steps to the.
There's a security camera that the nurses station just watching this. Like I give him 10 minutes.
I finally make it to the chair and I get the gown, and the gown is a small. And I can't call them because then the jig is up. So I put on the small gown. I'm like walking back to the bed like this, like sort of side shuffling, and I get in, and you have to like, cause you can't, your leg feels paralyzed. You can't just like lift your leg up. Like I actually have to like hold it and bring it up. And, after all that, the next morning, like as I'm waking up, I see the nurse looking at like the sheets and the gown, which I had like stuffed under this chair. Like, what's going on down here? And sure enough, she was just like, oh, we pissed the fucking bed.
Exposed.
Yeah.
That you didn't feel, so when you got a spinal, you didn't feel even taking a leak or anything like that?
No, I guess not. I mean, I didn't feel, because even, it was really like it was the wet, and then the smell really confirmed it. That it was, I wasn't like, oh, maybe I just spilled water as I was sleeping.
I saw Jen. She got an epidural when Harley was born, and she tried to like go natural as long as she can, but she was like, I reserve the right to go for drugs. I was like, me too. So she was, she tried to hold out, and then she was in pain and stuff. So we got to the hospital. She was just like, I'll take the epidural, and right away they gave her the epidural. And it knocked her out from like the waist down. I mean, I guess she felt enough to push because there was the whole push while she was giving birth. But the thing that blew my fucking mind.
Like push in the bush. All stoned.
I want to get down.
Doctor's like, can you please leave the room? So there I am, like while the kid's being delivered and whatnot, and you see the kid crowning and shit like that. And you're looking at, a human body and a vagina particularly just stretch unbelievably and do shit where you're like, oh my God, I never want to hear, ow, that hurts ever again. Because I know I'm way smaller than what's fucking coming out right now. So you're watching this happen, the baby's crowning and whatnot, and the doctor goes like, the baby's crowning. And so she reaches over for a fucking scissor that looks like a scissor in a fucking butcher shop. Just thick as fucking hell, man. Like not the scissor you have in your drawer at home. Just a mean looking, sterile ass silver.
It's like one of the tools that they use in Hostel to like kill somebody.
Yes. Totally. I expected some fucker with a weird mask to come in and shit. The lady doctor grabs this scissor and immediately goes to the bottom of her vagina, the gooch, if you will, and does the cut. There's a name for it. It's the episiotomy. Immediately goes for this. Now, I knew about the episiotomy, but I didn't know that it was, I thought it was like we pull out a surgical tool and there's like a little mask that goes over it and stuff like that. It was as simple as just grabbing and cutting the way you would cut a piece of paper and whatnot. I mean, she was a little more, she wasn't just stabbing because there was a human being coming out, but she was deft with it, got it in there, and all of a sudden just cut. And she cut like such a long line, almost from the bottom of her vag, almost to her fucking asshole, where I was like, it's going to be one big hole. But she was a pro.
What chance do I have now?
Yeah. I want to get there. Mr. Smith, please. So she did, and immediately my first reaction, because I'd never seen something like that. I never saw, like, in movies you see a knife going into somebody. I never saw anything like this in my life, like human meat being cut. And I immediately looked to fucking her because I thought she'd be like, ah! No reaction whatsoever. Like, she was uncomfortable from the pushing of the kid, and she felt the kid coming out of her body and moving through her pelvis and out her vag, but she didn't feel that cut one iota, man. So that fucking epidural shit is strong, son. I felt the cut more than she did. I looked at the fucking doctor and I wanted to lecture her about, you might want to warn a human being and shit like that. Later on, she was like, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I was like, yeah, okay. She was like, okay, well, there's a chair behind you in case you have to pass out. Some people cut it and they get queasy and pass out. I said, lady, you might have told me about the chair when you were cutting the fucking best part of my wife, man. When I watched that happen and shit. But I would imagine you didn't feel it very much.
Nah.
Hey kids, Trustworthy Kev Smith here. Let you know we'll be back in a moment for more of this fine Smodco podcast. But until then, bear with me. I got to pay some bills. I give the stamp of approval to Stamps.com. Yeah, it sounds ham-fisted. They didn't even write that for me. I wrote that for myself. And you're like, you wrote that? You copped to writing that? I'm the director of Cop Out, sir. I'll cop to a lot of things. Yeah, I fucking wrote it. I'm proud of that, man. Stamps.com is genius. This is what I love about Stamps.com. And we live in a world where you can get anything you want on demand right now. And when I'm talking about physical things, you can't get love on demand. I mean, you can pay for sex on demand. We're getting way off track. It's just, you can almost get your hands on anything whenever you want, man. Why the heck then are you still going to the post office and dealing with their limited hours, man? What do I got to come over and smack some sense into you? Get on board, man, with Stamps.com. It's so simple. Anything you can do at the post office, you could do right now from your desk with Stamps.com. You just buy and print out official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your own computer and printer. You are the post office at that point. You can put on a little outfit and print out your tickets, man, and build a little teller window. When I was a kid, I used to love to play post office, just because I like to greet people at windows and stuff and say, wait, please, because that's what you get a lot of at the post office. You ain't got to wait with Stamps.com, man. You're in charge. You're the Postmaster General, my son. Did you ever want to be the Postmaster General, little girl? Guess what? You can be that. Stamps.com allows you to do that.
Right now, use promo code SMOD for this special offer. Enjoy a no-risk trial plus a bonus offer worth $110 that includes a digital scale and up to $55 in free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the home page and type in SMOD. That's Stamps.com and enter SMOD.
All right, man. Let me check in on Comic Book Men as well. Bryan is on a television show called Comic Book Men. It's heading into its second season 2B, I guess it's called. We had season 1, then season 2A, and now season 2B. It's moving from Sunday nights where it was cozily behind The Walking Dead and Talking Dead, and now we're over on Thursday nights as AMC tries to expand their programming beyond the Sunday night, block that they constantly do. They've got a block on Thursday now that we lead off with, that's kind of unscripted programming. So there's a show about taxidermy, and then there's a show about people that hammer shit into their face in a sideshow and stuff.
That reminds me, I saw a tweet today that midget bowling is coming back to New Jersey. I wasn't aware that it had left. I'm not really an enthusiast, right. But I saw that down at the Stone Pony, which is a really famous club in Asbury, by popular demand.
Yeah. By popular demand?
That's what they said. And
they're like, we can't get Springsteen, so midget bowling.
Mm-hmm. And on the poster is like a midget who looks like he's fighting it, like he doesn't really want it to happen, right. And like a couple guys that are like mid-swing about to chuck him down the alley.
Jersey pride.
Yeah.
So this, as we head into season 2B, which starts February 14th on Valentine's Day, the shoot last season was a bit of an up-down experience for you.
Season 2.
For season 2.
Yeah.
We had this wonderful producer on the show, Bryan, who did the first season. And then when we went back for season 2, Bryan was committed to another show already, and so he wound up not doing most of season 2. And apparently you kind of butted up against the producers of season 2, some of the cats you had to work with?
If you can imagine, I had a problem with authority.
What was it? What were the issues?
In the very beginning, like the first season, Nichelle really, Bryan Nichelle, the guy he's talking about, wasn't in charge. We had one guy who didn't work out, and then another guy who didn't seem to, like, I didn't even know if he spoke English. He was only there for a week, but he hardly ever talked, but he wore scarves all the time. I remember he always had a scarf on. This is fucking summer we were shooting in. And then we finally got Nichelle. Like you say, Nichelle couldn't come back. Mm-hmm. So we got an entire new team, these 3 guys, who, I probably won't say their names, right?
No.
Okay. These 3 guys, who I guess their jobs are like field producer, showrunner, whatever it is that their titles are. And they had a decidedly different approach. I think their idea was to make it a kinder, gentler comic book man, because like right out of the gate, don't make fun of Ming so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, there's no fucking show without that.
I was like, the best I can offer you is to not do my Ming voice on TV. That's the best I can do. And plus Ming was even like, come on, like, you gotta make fun of me, guys. Otherwise it ain't comic book man. So of course, we weren't going to listen to that. And they were also giving me a hard time, even about my shirts. They wanted me to wear, now those guys, it makes sense. They wear the staff shirt. Yeah. But for me, since I don't work there, to wear the same shirt every single episode, which was going to make their job easier for editing, of course, I was just like, it doesn't make sense that I would wear the same shirt every day. Like, you could only wear one shirt. And at first they told me I could wear 4 different shirts. And then went 3, 1, and then they finally were like, you can only wear one shirt. And actually, I have the picture. I wish I put it up there. So the very first day I came in and I said, hey, I picked out the shirt that I want. And it was a white t-shirt, and I had taken a black Sharpie and drawn a big cock on it. With a lightning bolt next to it, and it says dick magnet. And I cut it off so that like my belly was hanging out. And I said, this is a shirt I want to wear every day, so is this cool? And then I was allowed to wear 4 shirts again. So that was like the first run-in that I had with these guys. And within the first couple days, I noticed, like, because when you're on camera, you can tell when the camera's actually pointing at you. And I could see, like, in my line of vision, I was like, they're not putting it on me. And I'm not like, fucking, I gotta be in every scene, but I'm like, I want to be in some scenes, I guess. Yeah. But again, they wanted to craft something that was fun for the family, and they did not like that. I guess they didn't like what made us successful in the first season.
I think the key word here is craft. Whereas in the first season, like, look, it's not reality television. It's unscripted. AMC calls it very wisely, because it's not. Reality would be if we had cameras in the store and we waited for people to come through the door to try to sell stuff. That happens sporadically. When you kind of arrange a day going, hey, Friday and Saturday we're going to be shooting transactions. Come in and auction off your item, or come in and see if you could sell off whatever it is that you're trying to trade in, or whatever your collectible, blah, blah, blah. When you do it that way, already you're fucking with reality. So you're arranging a situation where, you're making it easy for the shoot, where a bunch of people can show up and on the same weekend and you get a lot of shooting done. So that's already not reality. The unscripted genre, which AMC is kind of championing, is the idea of going, yeah, man, of course, we all acknowledge there's fucking cameras here, and we all acknowledge that we're working on a schedule and blah, blah, blah. But once the cameras turn on, these cats get to be whoever they want to be, get to say whatever they want to say. I mean, they can curse, and that shit gets cut out and stuff, but they're encouraged to be themselves. That's how we got to a second season, because you guys were yourselves in season 1. So suddenly these guys hit the ground running with new producers on the show who, it's when new producers come on, or new creative team comes on, they want to put their stamp on it and stuff. One of the things I always loved about Comic Book Men was it never does the shit where people look at the camera and start addressing it. We don't do the that thing, that we don't break the fourth wall. We don't sit there and go
OTFs, they call them.
OTFs,
on the fly.
On the
interviews.
fly,
Yeah.
it's called. The kind of thing where it's like, I hated him so much, I just wanted to punch him in his stupid fucking face. Like, none of that confessional stuff to the camera. The idea is we have this podcast device where we sit around the table and talk, and they're telling me the stories of what happened that week, so there's no need for people to kind of address the camera. But then there was suddenly, like, I've seen on the schedule OTFs, and I heard from Walter, like, they're talking to the people. Like, the people who are bringing stuff in, they're having them talk to the camera. And I don't know, it just seems weird. It's not the show. And that was one of the first red flags. I was like, where did it start getting more irritating for you?
I also, is James around? Like, does James listen? Because I sent that picture to him. I emailed the picture to him so he could show it to people.
Oh, okay. James, you listening? Yes, sir. Did you find Bryan just sent you a picture, man, that he wanted to throw up on the big screen? No worries. Very casual tonight, see?
It was those things. I was like, why did those OTFs? I was like, why do they want to put them in? I mean, I certainly didn't have the juice to tell them to stop, but they were spending a lot of time on those things, which made us late every day. So by the end of the season, we're literally like 2 weeks behind because they spent so much time doing that other shit.
And shooting people that aren't comic book men. You know what I'm saying? Like, the show's called Comic Book Men, and the reason people, like, at least I sit in a nice God spot when it comes to the show. I read all the Twitter input, and all the Facebook input, everything that people are writing about the show while it's happening, I kind of get to see. And the thing that you see over and over again, the reason they like the show is they like the interaction between you guys. They like to see you guys be friends, and obviously you're affectionate toward one another, but you bust balls left and right. That's number one, first and foremost. Then the transactions, they like seeing merchandise come through the door and stuff like that. So to not embrace that, to not embrace the thing that kind of makes everybody like the show in the first place, that got it picked up, like watching you four interact. And, particularly you play the role of being the chief ball buster, and suddenly you weren't busting many balls.
Not allowed, and discouraged. I would say discouraged from doing it. And the other thing is, like, with those OTFs, it's like, let's say we're going to compare ourselves to, what's that? Pawn Stars? Pawn Stars. In theme and content, it's like, we get it. The reason that the fucking person brought the thing in was because they wanted money. Every time, that's the same. It's the same fucking answer every time. Right. Well, I thought I could sell it and make some money. It's like, so you don't need to hear.
It's never person. Anybody going like, if I do this, this will find the fifth element.
Yeah.
I'll save the planet.
Somebody's holding my fucking wife hostage, and they say, if I don't get a certain amount for this on Pawn Stars, I'm fucked. It's never that.
But to be fair, even that's money.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, can you say it quicker?
It's a slightly different twist.
Money,
yeah.
I guess.
But my problem came with. There we go.
Dick magnet.
I don't know why they decided to bend to my will and give me those 4 shirts.
Well played, my friend. When did it get its worst?
I'm 44 in that picture, by the way. It got to the point where they started suggesting I say certain things, and that as a group, we say things in a certain way. That came first.
Right.
To everybody, can you say it like this? Because they're always editing, and they want things, they want it to be like every other fucking show. That's what it came down to, I thought, is like they want it to be like every other show. And the very first time that I was like, this is not gonna fucking wash, is when they were like, hey, can you say this joke instead of what I wanted to say.
Somebody fed you a line, which, number one,
yes.
It's like, hey, we're unscripted, dude.
Well, that's the thing. People have asked in the past, and I swear to my hand, I don't believe in God, so fuck it. But like, my hand on Sage, my niece, nothing is written for us. We make it up as we go along. Every single thing is ad-libbed. And that's the reason I like the show, And
you get to be you, man. You cracked the code. You found a job where somebody's like, here's a bunch of money, now be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only job I think I can probably do. and not, well, not even, because I did get in trouble for doing that too. But,
well, I mean, fucking
Dick Magnet.
Yeah, Dick Magnet doesn't really make it easy.
But I feel like rebel to the end. I should get buried in that shirt, right? Like, if I died, I hope that, like, the people around me would know me well enough not to put me in, like, a fancy suit, that they would be like, pop him in his Dick Magnet shirt.
If you go before me, I'm going to be like, somebody dig up the Dick Magnet shirt. And we can't have an open casket on one side. We have to have it full.
Right.
Because you'd have to be able to see the gut for full display.
If you can't see the gut, half of it's lost.
So,
yeah.
I like Buddy's nice in the background, too.
Yeah, the Jesus is right over his shoulder going, I approve.
It is, yeah. It's a sign of approval. But this is a show where, like, you don't tell me what jokes to make.
No.
So if you're not suggesting stuff, I'm not going to fucking listen to these fools. And there was one guy he was just so fucking not funny. And one day I was up there with Ming. I don't know if it aired or if it will air. But I'm standing at the counter with Ming, and I make a joke, and I walk away, and Ming's reaction I thought was really good. And, they cut. And so the guy goes, okay, well, can we do that again? But this time, Bryan, because I made a joke. It was, the guy was from Australia, and I was talking about the Coriolis effect or whatever, pretending I didn't know what it was, and how it would be such a huge deal someday if I could go to Australia to see the water go backwards down the toilet.
Bart Simpson.
And, and I was like, man, that would be great. And I just, like, walk away, and Ming goes, what are you talking about? And I don't answer him. I just slowly walk off, and he goes, what's your problem, stupid ass? He goes. And it was funny. And so I come back, and he goes, let's do that again. But this time, Bryan, say, if Kevin Smith finds out that you bought that item, you're going to be going down the toilet the wrong way. Ooh. And I'm looking at him, and I go, and this is in front of everybody. I go, no, I'm not going to say that because, one, it's not funny. I said, you're not here to tell people what's funny and what's not. I said, so you just stick to your job and I'll do mine. And it's like, crick, 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 crick.
Right.
And that got to be, they did it all the time. No matter how many times I was like, would you fuck off? They still did it. And then it all culminated in, we were doing did the con thing? No, we went to a con. We do a con.
Hasn't aired yet.
Hasn't aired yet. And they wanted us to say something in a certain way. And the thing is with these guys, Ming will do anything. I don't care what it is that you ask Ming to do. He's going to do it. He's going to say it.
No doubt, man. If they were just like, hey, Ming, on this week's Comic Book Man, he'd be like...
Exactly. Or like you have to we're going to prank your children and think you're giving them up for adoption. He'd be like, all right. If it's for the show, like accommodating to a fault where you're like, what's wrong with you, man? Mike, very accommodating. Walt, not so much, but you can break him where he'll just be like, fuck it. All right, fine.
Really? There's a wall that he hits where he's not like, he doesn't Bruce Banner it, where he's just like, I'm angry. He's just like, I'm compliant.
The only time I saw it was when we did the Fantastic Four wedding, because, we shot 12 hours that day, and we got back to the store, and this is something that Walt and I put a lot of thought into, the wedding, and they're like, all right, let's get ready for that wedding, and we were like, what are you talking about? Like, we're going to shoot the wedding today. We were like, well, we didn't have the costumes, we didn't have any of the people. They were just going to let them do it in their normal clothes. And with nobody there, and like it wasn't going to be what we wanted to do. And I said, we're not going to shoot this today. It's like we're just not going to do it. And the guy's looking at me like, who the fuck are you, man? And I'm like, I'm fucking Kevin Smith's friend. So if you don't like it, talk to him, because I know I don't have the juice, but he'll back me up on this.
But also, you're one of the stars of the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's 4 dudes who are the comic book men, and you're one of them. It's weird for them to kind of not put your opinion first.
They didn't care. They wanted to do what they wanted to do, and they wanted to get it out of the way. And so they said, well, we'll find out, what's going on. And I said, what's going on is we're not going to shoot this. And he's like, we in a huff. And, he walks off, and then he comes back, and he's like, all right, well, they said we can do it another time. So they would bend. I mean, we flat out said we're not going to do it. So what choice did they have? But when we were doing this other shot at the con, it was like the 3rd time where they're like, all right, Walter, say this to Ming, this to Mike, and this to Bryan, and then go. And I said, but we've done it already. And they're like, yes, we want you to say it like this. And I go, we fucking did it already. I said, stop telling us stop telling us what the fuck to do. And the guy goes, goddamn son of a fucking bitch. He yells at me and throws his fucking thing down on the ground. And he goes, we're not going to make our day with this bullshit. And I shut my mouth and I waited to the end of the shot and I walked off the set. And as I was leaving, I told the guy, I said, I'm not doing anything else today. I said, this is fucking bullshit. And that's the day I called you, and I called an exec at AMC and told on everybody.
Yeah. He did. I got a call from Bryan, and he goes, dude, I don't bitch about anything and stuff, and I like doing this TV show, but I'm just telling you right now, like, if these dudes are here tomorrow, I'm never going to be on this show again. I was like, what? What's going on? And he downloaded me on all this. And I was like, I didn't know. Nobody told me, because I'm not out there when they're shooting most of the show. I go out there 3 times during the season, during the shoot, to do the podcast wraparound. So Bryan, kind of related, and as he did here, probably in more graphic detail there and stuff, and with far more use of the term motherfucker. But finally I was like, well, dude, the show is about you guys. What I love about the show is watching my friends on TV. I don't want to watch Artifice. I don't want to watch you guys fucking say shit you would never say. Let me get into this. And it was fortuitous. It came in timing with, there was a New York Times piece that ran where I guess the New York Times was on set for the Stan Lee shoot. And they captured this kind of moment where it fucking drove me nuts. It made me so mad. Where Stan Lee was talking to a kid, the great fucking Stan Lee, who at age 90, whatever he was, when he came down to do the shoot, 92, came all the way down to the stash and spent 6 hours shooting and shit. They have him at one point, he was talking to a kid and telling the kid, about if you want to get into writing, you just give him a comic book tip and shit about being a creator. He wasn't even done speaking, and all of a sudden the camera crew goes, we got that, let's move on. And to the Stan, and Stan was like, well, it wasn't about performance. I was talking to the kid. So I saw that, and
we said we got it, Stan.
With great power comes great shut your fucking mouth. So I called up the good folks at AMC, and I was just like, hey man, this is going on and in a big bad way, and I can't, these guys are the show, and I can't have them being told what to do and say, and you don't want that. The whole reason we're back is because of blah, 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 and you like who they are, and the audience likes who they are, and this is the situation. I laid out everything that was going on, and to their great credit, AMC is working on way more important shit than our show, and when you're a network, basically you hire people to run shit, and fucking you're overseeing everything. So these cats are like, we didn't know, dude. We fucking buried in we're up to our necks in zombies over here. We can't fucking pay attention to all the details. We thought these cats were having a good time.
Oh, Bryan Johnson's displeased. Let's put Walking Dead on the back burner.
But they were, to be fair, right away, man. Mary and Joel were just like, we have no idea, dude. It's paramount importance to us that your buddies are fucking taken care of. They are the fucking show, even more than you. I was like, you don't have to fucking say that. But they acted fast. They were like, they're gone. They won't be there. And the very next day, they were gone. Then I came to do the podcast wraparounds, and we had Bryan and Michelle back and stuff. And Bryan whipped that season into some nice shape. We had to go back and do some reshooting and do some pickups and whatnot to kind of make all of our episodes for the back half. But it turned into a good season. But, you talk about and Bryan had a real hard time. He's like, I fucking hate doing this, dude, because I feel like such a rat and a pussy and fucking I'm tattletaling. But I have to share this. And even though you've said you felt like that, it's good that you did. You fucking saved the show. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have known, nobody would have known until we got into post, and all of a sudden we'd be left with a lot of fucking scripted lines and shit.
Where's the real show?
Yeah. So
that same day when Stan was there, they fucking took so long to do anything, and he got there at a certain time, and it took forever to get going, and then they would take these breaks, and there was this break where I look over at the poker table that we do Tell 'em Steve Dave from, and if you've ever seen it, it's this ratty ass poker table with crumbs all over it, and people write on it in Sharpie, and the dude is just at the very end of the table, and he's like this.
Stan?
Yeah. Just because he was so tired by that point.
Yeah.
And the one guy, one of the producer guys, is the one who told me to be like, tell Kevin Smith, go flush him down the toilet. He's standing over by the counter, and he's fucking gabbing with somebody with this fucking big corny ass smile on his face. And I went over and I said, how about you fucking douchebag producers do your job and get on the ball so this motherfucker can get out of here?
Stanley's like, which motherfucker?
I was like, Stan, shut the fuck up. I got your back. And the fucking look on that guy's face was like, stomped his foot, like turned around and stormed off, and fucking Zapsik and Ming just started laughing as he fucking stormed off. But like, that's the kind of shit that started happening very regularly, you know, where I overheard what they said that, they're like, they think just because they were on a show that they know how to make a show. It's just like, well, what's the fucking difference, really?
Yeah, and also in this rarefied air that you're breathing, you do make the show by being on the show, and not like you make the show great, bro. But there is no show without you guys. But you do that too. But there is no show without you guys fucking being there. That's why I thought it was so weird. But it was fantastic, honestly, that like AMC acted as quickly as they did. They were like, hey man, like those guys have to be comfortable. So props to them and stuff, and props to you for jumping up and fucking being the whistleblower, man. You're like Russell Crowe in that fucking movie.
Yeah, or like Norma Ray, right?
Yeah, you're like fucking Norma Ray.
Yeah, the comic book stuff. And I'm sure people are like, you fucking bitch. You're on TV. Ooh, they're telling me what to say. I'm so funny. Don't put words in my mouth. But truly, I don't care. I don't give a fuck what job I had. I would still be annoyed by shit. I know it.
Yeah, there's no job and no amount of money they could give you where you wouldn't be like,
I don't care if they were paying me $10 million instead of the $8 million that I get. No, I mean, I would still be like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, don't tell me what to say. Just go.
That's what I love about you, dude. That's you. I've talked about many times in the past, like in terms of the Clerks characters. Dante was who I was, and Randall was who I most wanted to be. And since Bryan was the basis for Randall, essentially what that meant was I always wanted to be Bri. You were always so free and still remain that person that's just like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I got one life, and this is the person that I am. And that's always made you like a true original. That's why I'm so glad you wound up like a little spotlight on you on TV and shit like that, because there ain't nobody else like you in the world, man. And I've always enjoyed kind of hanging out with you. I'm going to tell you guys a quick story, and when we get out of here. It's one of my favorite Bryan Johnson stories, man. This goes back to when we were, I don't even know if we were working at Quick Stop at this point. I think we might have just been hanging out. This was pre-Quick Stop. Might have been Krauser's days. It was when we were going to the strip clubs. Like, there was a point where we discovered the Juice Bar which was near us.
There's naked ladies in that store?
Yeah. Like, the way they do strip clubs in Jersey, and we were like 18, 19 at this point, maybe 20 or something. The way they do strip clubs in Jersey is if they serve alcohol, then women don't get naked, dudes don't get naked. It's just, you can wear pasties and fucking panties and shit. But if you're being naked, completely naked, they don't serve booze. They call them juice bars. So you go to this juice bar, you're drinking fucking orange juice or Coke or whatever, and everyone's getting completely naked up on stage. So me and him finally went to a juice bar. They opened one. It used to be a fucking metal club called Murphy's Law, right? Yeah. And then they turned it into Strutters. And one day, bro, I was like, you want to go to Strutters? And I was like, can we go to Strutters? Is it possible? And he's like, yeah, you don't have to be 21, man. You can fucking just go in and stuff. And I'm like, right on, let's go. And so we went to that place the first time, and it was a fucking mind bender. We walked in, and I'd never seen anything like it. Just fucking naked women up on the stage and shit. And like 3 seconds into the door, you're like, this is going to be the greatest night of our lives. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, all of this is depressing. Because you're looking over at these fucking dudes. I'll never forget, there was like a Hindu man and his son. Like, they were related and stuff. And they were at the strip club sitting right next to us. And so, you could see them over here. And they were so fucking into the strippers. Strippers would come out and stuff. And they were making this intense eye contact. Both of them, father and son, just like almost nodding in unison. And then, like, the women come over and they take the tip from you, and sometimes they take it from between their legs and reach back, do it all at weird angles and whatnot. And sometimes they're doing it face to face. She was doing it face to face with the one, and the dude, like, give me your hand. Like, give me the buck. There, this is $1 you're handing me.
Here's your dollar.
And she's like this. And the guy is like this. And he was fucking buying it, man, like hardcore. He's like, this woman wants me and shit. And I looked over and I was like, that's so fucking sad. And then
she's
the woman,
not that great a saleswoman. This dude's fooling himself.
He's totally fooling himself. Then she came over to us and shit, and all of a sudden, like, she was with us for a little while, and then when she left, we were like, she totally wants us. And then you're like, no, we're just like the fucking dad and the kid. We're fucking losers and shit.
And you want to separate yourself from those. You look at those two, and you're just like looking down at them. I'm not like those two.
You're
looking over at us.
Yeah, at least they were having a good father-son outing and shit.
Yeah. We're judging everybody.
Yeah, we're judging them and shit. It was, I remember at the end of the night, too, we did, like, you could take a Polaroid and shit, and I still have these Polaroids in my scrapbooks that I made when I was a kid. And it's me and him, and it's circa 1988, 89, when the oak tree was still popular at the mall. You can dress like urban style. And so it's me wearing like a mustard vest. And like, I look like a fucking refugee from the Arsenio Hall show. And I'm standing on one side of this woman, Bry's standing on the other, and he's like clean cut, and he's got the long hair and shit like that. He's wearing like an OP shirt. And I'm holding one leg, and he's holding another, and the chick is just like, and completely naked. And then fucking the next week we went back took another picture and shit. It was like $10 to take a Polaroid with her. And Brian's like,
Polaroids.
It was a Polaroid. Brian's like, what are you going to do with it? I was like, I got to hide it from my mother. That's for sure. Because I was still living at home. So anyway, we're going back to the juice bar one night. This is probably the third time. And, part of the juice bar, of course, is you got to get yourself some cash.
They signed them, too, you remember?
Yes.
They actually would sign the...
I have one that says, like, Love and Kisses, Michaela.
Yeah, mine said...
My first autograph.
I think it was the same girl. Mine said, hey, Bryan, keep it wet, Michaela. And she signs her name like an autograph.
She's a fucking rock star. So we're driving down there and the juice bar is in Long Branch.
Yeah.
And we're coming from Highland, so we got to go down through Seabright and past the seawall and stuff. And then we stop at a bank in Seabright. It's ATM is relatively new concept at this point of the story. Like I'm telling you a story from the era of when they first introduced mozzarella sticks. This is how far, and I know this because I remember when food gets introduced. But this is in an era when ATMs were relatively new, like going to the Mac machine is what we called it. And you could because back then you couldn't get your money except unless you got to a bank before it closed. And then one day they were like, here's a computer that will give you money in the middle of the night. And we were like, this is amazing. We could get our money, go to Grand Union, buy chocolate chip cookies, and watch the fucking Deer Hunter. And that was like our hot night out. So that's why we were like, strip club. Finally, we had something new to do. So we stop in this Seabright ATM's little office in the front of the bank. And, you can put your card in and it opens up the little vestibule and there's the one ATM machine. And so we go to pick up like $100 because we figure we're going to tip. Bry's a real sucker at the strip club, man. As soon as the chick starts, because Bry's like, hey, man, what's up? Like, it's not, he can't buy into the fantasy of like, like he's just sitting there going like, why are you doing this? And the
Will
girls
this make it better?
And they play him like that. They're just like, I wish I wasn't doing this. I'm trying to go to school. And Brian's like, this will help. And then he gives them money and they walk away without doing any show or anything like that. So Bryan likes to have the conversations with them and whatnot. So you'll be sitting there looking at Bryan talking to this completely naked stripper, legs akimbo and whatnot, and her lips almost hitting the fucking floor. And Bryan's sitting there going like, yeah, man, of course. Well, physics is always a tough subject. Stuff. So there we are.
Her I don't touch. Cruddy Christina. I'm like,
we're at the ATM and we're picking up a little cash and whatnot so we could tip and at the juice bar. And so while we're there, I said, hey man, let's play a fucking prank. And we were writing shit on the pieces of paper, you can grab an envelope and deposit shit. Grab that, there's a pen there, and we're writing fucking notes and giggling and shit. And Brian's like, wait, I got a fucking way better idea. And Bryan reaches into his wallet and he pulls out a fucking condom. And I was just like, oh my God, where did you get that? But this was in the era when people started carrying condoms.
I'm like a Hindu father. I'm like, we're going to need this tonight, son.
So he goes, watch, dude. And he opens it up and shit. And he's like, and he unrolls it and spits into the rubber. And I was like, yes, bitch, yes. Like this was the height of comedy. So I grab it and I'm spitting into it too. And we're passing this rubber back and forth and spitting into it like, ah, 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 ah. while we're taking our money out and shit, waiting for the money for the transaction to be done. So we spit in it and we leave it on the fucking ATM and shit. And so we're like, whoever comes in next is going to think that's full of cum. You know, went out into the car and didn't even stick around.
Isn't that weird? We don't wait around for the payoff.
So in a Joker-like fashion, we're like, we don't want to see. We just moved on with our madness and whatnot. So never thought about it. Went to the strip club and whatnot. Stopped thinking about it. Did the whole strip club ride home. Why are we doing this? It's such a waste of time and money. Didn't think about the fucking rubber and shit. Next day, I get a phone call at my house. And they're like, Kevin Smith, please. And I was like, yeah, okay. This is Kevin Smith. And they're like, hi, this is the Seabright Police Department. And I was like, hi. You know, because this is fucking, even if I got a call now from the Seabright Police Department, I'd be scared, and I own the house, but I was living at my parents' house.
Like Grace is over your shoulder.
Yeah, like, who, Seabright, what? You know, and so I was like, hello, and he goes, yeah, we're going to need you to come in. Can you come in today? And I said, yeah, what's the problem? He goes, we can discuss it when you get here. Let's say 2 o'clock. I said, yeah, okay, I can do it, and I hung up and stuff. So I drive
immediately throw a noose over a rafter.
Bit my suicide pill. The Seabright Police. So I go to the Seabright Police and shit and pull up the Seabright Police Department, and it's cool. It's right there on the water. I don't even know if it exists anymore.
Yeah, it's still there.
Did it get taken out?
One of the few buildings that survived the hurricane. Yeah.
So I go inside and I'm like, hi, I'm looking for Detective blah, blah, blah. And the lady behind the desk looks up at me and she smiles so widely. And then she goes, hold on. And she turns around and she's like, Detective blah, blah, blah. And then you see the rest of the people in the police department. They're at their desk and walking around. They all start stopping and looking at the counter and they all start nodding and smiling. And I was just
so far, so good.
Yeah, this is amazing. Is it my birthday? You know? So the guy comes up and he's just like, Kevin Smith. And I said, yes. How do you know? He goes, well, let me tell you that. He's going, were you in the bank in Seabright yesterday? And I was like, yeah, I went, we were on our way down to the strip club, me and my friend. He's going, yes, your friend and you were on your way to a strip club. I said, yeah. Why? How do you know that? Is there a law against? Please don't tell my mother, you know.
Fumbling for his gun. Sir, it's going to be all right.
First, he went for my dick. When he couldn't get my dick, he went for my gun, and then he tried to shoot himself. So I say, we were. I was in Seabright. And the cop goes, okay, let me just show you something here. And he pulls out what looked like, I guess kind of like the best way to describe them I used to go to Chuck E. Cheese with a kid, and if you took a picture on the Chuck E. ride, one of these little rides, it printed out like a fax picture almost, a heat picture, like when I got my kids' sonogram and they showed me the picture of like, this is a fucking thing in her belly, that's a human being. It was on that kind of paper. They gave me a piece of paper, they put it out right in front of me, and there were 3 of them. And 3 images, and you can see just a piece of Bry, but front and fucking center, on the camera on the fucking ATM, which I didn't know existed, you see me going like... fucking laying it down. So just caught dead to rights. And, you know, I don't have the presence of mind to be like, I'm fucking pissed scared, man. Because all I can think is like, okay, there's this photographic proof, man. What happens on TV in a situation like that? And then I was like, nobody spits into rubbers on TV, you fucking moron.
There's no precedent for this.
Yeah, they're going to have to create a law. So I was just like, am I in trouble? And he goes, no. He's gone, well, I mean, I guess we could file some sort of disturbance charge, but I had to bring you in because there was a woman who came in after you who found this. I was like, no. And he goes here and he pulls the picture and there's fucking mom that looks like, you know, she's like 40 or something like that. And all you see is like her going... He's like, you might want to stay out of the Seabright Bank. I was like, I will, man. He was like, who was your accomplice? And I was like, this is my friend Bryan, man. It was all his ideas. Thanks for hanging out, folks, tonight for the very first Why Bry. Please give it up for the guy without whom there is no Why Bry. Bryan Johnson, man. And that's going to do it for the very first episode. Hopefully we'll build this into something else. I'm Kevin Smith.
Bryan Johnson.
That's all for Why, Bry. Good night.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kevin Smith and Bryan Johnson. That is Why Bry Live at the Lovitz.
And there it is, man. Two dudes who unwittingly, years later, would kick off the bromance movement, man. Bryan Johnson and me sitting there doing Why Bry. We had a good time. And then right away, Bryan was like, I want to keep doing this, man. So look for more of that in the future. If you want to be helpful, jump on Twitter and hashtag your hashtag Why Bry and just tweet where you are and where you'd like to see us, man. We'll be looking for smaller theaters, like 300 to 500 seaters or something like that. Good places to go, like the Alamo Draft Houses would be perfect. But we're going to take it slowly out there into the world and do more and more Why Bry, because life's too short to not sit around and giggle with your best friend. Okay, man. So that's going to do it this week for Smodcast. Don't forget next week, man, birthday show. Me and Mosier talking about our little baby Smodcast age 6. Until then, that's Smodcast for this week. I'm Kevin Smith saying, have a week. Stronger than any forest primeval, higher than any bird ever flew. Longer than Liam Neeson's penis, man. The birds of salesmanship, he sings about the Smodco crew. Oh, you just got to follow that bird and he'll take you to a Smodco show. And when you get there, you're going to watch my mouth go. Oh, Smodco show's coming to your town, man. I'm going to tell you all about it with the help of the bird. Give it up for him, Jonathan Livingston Sales Goal, ladies and gentlemen, the bird of salesmanship. He's up there crowing about San Francisco on February 6th to see me and my good lady wife. You want to get some oral from my wife while I watch? And then I'll give you oral? And then we'll both use our mouths on you? For money? Then come see Plus One Live, man. Me and my good lady wife, Jen Schwabach, talking love, marriage, and butthole pleasures. Cobb's Comedy Club, February 6th, part of Sketch Fest San Francisco, man. Now back to the podcast.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.